In the spring of 1980, Mount St. Helens in Washington state began to stir after more than a century of quiet. Small earthquakes rattled beneath the peak. Steam vented from the summit. A bulge swelled on the north side as rising magma pushed the mountain outward. Officials set up exclusion zones and urged people to leave. Some did. Others stayed. An elderly lodge owner named Harry Truman famously insisted that the mountain would never hurt him. At 8:32 in the morning on May 18th, a strong earthquake struck beneath the volcano. In an instant, the entire north flank collapsed in the largest landslide ever recorded. The collapse uncorked the pressurized interior, and the mountain exploded sideways. A superheated blast of gas, ash, and rock raced north at tremendous speed. Volcanologist David Johnston, who was monitoring from a ridge, radioed a final message: "Vancouver, Vancouver. This is it," before the blast reached him. Forests for miles were shredded. Close-in trees were snapped and blown flat. Farther out, they were scorched bare. About 1,300 feet of the summit was gone, and a dark column of ash climbed into the sky until day looked like night across central Washington. The eruption produced more than a towering ash cloud. Snow and ice melted in moments, and torrents mixed with rock and ash to form fast-moving mudflows called lahars. These roared down river valleys, smashing bridges and choking channels. Ash drifted on the wind across many states and fell like gritty snow on towns and farms. Airports closed, engines clogged, and cleanup took weeks. By evening, towns hundreds of miles away were carpeted in gray. Within days, fine ash had reached the East Coast, and within 2 weeks it had circled the globe. When the mountain finally quieted, an eerie silence settled over a landscape that looked like the moon. 57 people had died, including scientists, loggers, campers, and residents such as Truman. Hundreds of homes and miles of roads were damaged or destroyed. Wildlife perished in great numbers, and entire hillsides of timber lay in neat, blown-down rows pointing away from the volcano. The new summit was a gaping horseshoe-shaped crater open to the north. From tragedy came knowledge. The 1980 events marked a turning point for volcano science. Instruments had tracked the earthquake swarms and the growing bulge, yet the scale of the landslide and the lateral blast taught scientists new lessons about how pressure can vent sideways and how quickly conditions can change. Hazard maps, evacuation plans, and monitoring networks around the world improved because of what researchers learned here. The eruption showed the value of clear warnings, simple risk zones, and timely evacuations. In 1982, the devastated area became Mount St. Helens National Volcanic Monument, so nature could recover and scientists could study a living laboratory. At first, the blast zone looked dead, then green returned. Hardy plants pushed through the ash. Insects, birds, and mammals followed. Ponds and streams settled into new paths. Spirit Lake found a new outlet, and life rebounded. The crater itself remained active from 1980 into the mid-1980s, and again in the 2000s. Thick lava slowly rose to build a new dome inside the crater, while steam vents reminded visitors that the volcano is not finished. Today, Mount St. Helens is one of the most closely watched volcanoes on Earth. Networks of seismometers, GPS stations, gas sensors, and cameras measure every rumble, every puff, and every subtle rise or fall of the ground. Rangers and scientists share what they see with the public, and the mountain is a classroom for students and a destination for hikers and sightseers who can gaze straight into the crater from safe viewpoints when conditions allow. The landscape is a living timeline that shows shock, destruction, and renewal side by side. The story of Mount St. Helens is the story of power and resilience. A quiet peak woke up. A morning turned dark noon. A forest fell and then slowly stood again. The mountain took lives, And it changed lives, including the scientists who learned to read its signals and the communities that learned how to prepare. 4 decades later, the name still calls up images of ash-black skies and a missing summit, but also of wildflowers on gray slopes, elk in young forests, and a vigilant watch that will warn us when the mountain speaks again.